"Ma'am, I don't think you were supposed to see this." The hostess said it low, almost a whisper, sliding her phone across the bar toward me like it might bite her. On the screen was a photo, my son's fiancée. Someone else's hand on her waist. I didn't say anything. I just stared at it until the ice in my glass finished melting. What happened over the next 6 weeks would end a wedding, end a friendship, and end a version of my son I thought I knew. A folded napkin with 2 initials written on it, in blue pen. Remember that. It matters. Later. My name is Margaret Ellison. I'm 58 years old. I've worked as a certified bookkeeper and small business accountant in Charleston, South Carolina, for almost 30 years. I balance other people's books for a living. I notice when numbers don't add up. That skill saved my family, though not in the way you'd think. If you're new here, drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from tonight. I read every single one, and if stories like this keep you up scrolling at midnight the way they keep me up writing them, go ahead and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Now, let me take you back to where this really started. It was a Sunday in March. Warm for spring, the kind of Charleston day where the air smells like jasmine and wet pavement from a rain that already passed through. My son Daniel was turning 29, and I'd invited his fiancée Ashley's family over for a small cookout in the backyard. Nothing fancy. Paper plates, a cooler of sweet tea, my late husband Robert's old smoker, the one he built himself out of a repurposed oil drum, going since 10 that morning. Robert passed 6 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. I still use a smoker every year for Daniel's birthday because it feels like Robert's still standing there. Dongzinan telling me I'm using too much wood. Ashley's mother, Carol, brought a store-bought pie and set it down like it cost her something. Ashley's father didn't come. He never did. Not to anything. Not once in the 2 years Daniel had been dating her. I noticed that. I file it away the way I file away a receipt that doesn't match an invoice. Daniel looked happy that day. Really happy. He grilled corn, shirtless in the sun, laughing too loud at his own jokes, the way he used to as a boy when he wanted everyone to notice how good he felt. Ashley sat under the oak tree, scrolling her phone the entire afternoon. I didn't think much of it then. Now I think about it every day. 3 weeks later, Daniel proposed, or reproposed, I should say. Since they'd already decided to get married, T's was T-Real proposal, the video-worthy one, on the pier at Folly Beach at sunset. He called me crying happy tears. "Mom?" She said yes. She said yes. I cried too. Of course I did. He's my only son. 2 weeks after that, he sat across from me at my kitchen table, hands folded, the same nervous posture he used to have telling me he'd wrecked the car. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to say no if it's too much." Ashley's parents can't really help with the wedding. Her dad's. It's complicated, and I've got maybe 6,000 saved. But she wants this specific venue, the one on Broad Street. The Heirloom. It's booked 18 months out normally, but they had a cancellation for October. If we don't grab it now, we lose it. "How much, Daniel?" He looked at the table. "All in. Venue, catering, the dress, flowers, the band. Maybe 80. If we do the open bar, the way she wants, $80,000. I didn't answer right away. I thought about Robert, about the words he used to say to me whenever I hesitated on something big. "Margaret, you can always earn money back. You can't earn back a moment you didn't show up for." I thought about that, and I thought about my son's face, and I said yes. I want to be honest with you here, because that's the only way I know how to tell a story. Part of me hesitated, not about the money I'd built a good practice. I had it to give, and Robert's life insurance had never been touched. What made me pause was Ashley. Something about her never quite settled into place for me. She was polite. She said all the right things. "Thank you so much, Mrs. Ellison. You're too generous." But her eyes didn't match her mouth when she said it. I told myself I was being an overprotective mother. I told myself Robert would have said I was looking for problems where there weren't any, so I wired the first deposit. $12,000 to the Heirloom on Broad Street, then flowers, then the dress fitting, then the band deposit, then the catering. $80,000, spread across 5 months, one wire transfer at a time. The wedding was set for the 3rd Saturday in October. 2 weeks before it, I got a call from a woman named Renata, who ran events at the Heirloom. She wanted to confirm the final head count and go over the seating chart for the reception dinner, which was being catered by a restaurant 2 doors down called Magnolia and Vine, private room, plated dinner, the whole thing. "I just want to flag something," Renata said, her voice careful. "Not my business, really. But you're listed as the primary contact and payer on this account, and I noticed some late-night changes made to the guest list. A name added, then removed, then added back. Might be nothing. What name? A man named Marcus Whitfield. Added under the groom's side, then moved to the bride's side, then taken off the list entirely, then put back on 2 days ago. I told her it was probably a cousin. Maybe, Renata said. Probably, in a tone that didn't sound like she believed it either. I didn't push it. I told myself it wasn't my wedding to run. It was Ter's rehearsal dinner, the Friday night before the wedding. 22 guests, private room at Magnolia and Vine, the same restaurant handling Saturday's reception, string lights, low candles, the smell of seared scallops and rosemary bread drifting out of the kitchen every time the door swung open. I remember exactly what I was wearing. Navy dress, my grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones I only wear for big moments. Everything felt normal. Toasts were given. Daniel's best man, a college friend named Chase, told a story about their fraternity days that made the whole table laugh. Ashley looked beautiful in cream silk, laughing at all the right moments, touching Daniel's arm the way brides do. Then she excused herself. Just need the ladies' room. 12 minutes passed. Then 15. I noticed because I'm the kind of person who notices time. It's part of what makes me good at my job. I got up to check on her, thinking maybe she was sick. Maybe the wine didn't sit right. I walked past the kitchen hallway toward the restrooms. That's when the hostess stopped me. Young woman, name tag said Priya. Ma'am, I don't think you were supposed to see this. She turned her phone toward me. A photo, taken not 30 seconds earlier by another staff member in the back service corridor, the one that led to the loading dock behind the restaurant. Ashley, a man's hand on her waist, his face turned toward hers, close enough that their foreheads nearly touched. That's Marcus, Priya said quietly. He comes in here a lot. He and your, She nodded toward the private room. He and Hertie've had dinner here before? More than once. Staff talk. I stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour, but was probably 10 seconds. Then I said, "Thank you for telling me." And I walked back into the private room and finished my glass of wine like nothing in my whole world had just cracked open. That night, lying in bed, I didn't cry. I kept doing math instead. It's what I do when I don't know what else to do. $80,000. 12 hours until the wedding. One photograph I hadn't asked for and couldn't unsee. I thought about calling Daniel right then. I thought about waking him up and showing him the picture and ending it before it started. Then I thought about Robert. What would he have done? Robert never acted on a feeling. He always sighed. Get your facts first, Margaret. A feeling isn't proof. Proof is proof. Was I overreacting? A hand on a waist isn't a confession. Restaurant gossip isn't a fact. I'd built my whole career on not accusing anyone of anything without documentation. Maybe I was about to blow up my son's wedding over a photo that had an explanation I hadn't heard yet. I decided to wait. One night, just one, I barely slept. The next morning, I called Renata back, told her I needed the final vendor contact list, caterers, florists, the band, all of it, for what I said was insurance purposes. She sent it over without asking questions. I found the private cell number for the events manager at Magnolia and Vine, a man named Oswald Deacon, who'd overseen the rehearsal dinner personally. I texted him, told him who I was, asked plainly if he had any information about a guest named Marcus Whitfield and my son's fiancée. He didn't answer for 4 hours. I sat in my kitchen the whole time, coffee going cold, staring at my phone like it was a verdict waiting to be read. At 11:42 that morning, 3 hours before the wedding was supposed to begin, AW wrote back, Mrs. Ellison, I run a business, and normally I would never get involved in a guest's personal matters, but I have a daughter myself, and I would want someone to tell me. Marcus Whitfield has dined here with Ashley on 4 separate occasions over the past year, always without your son. Reservations under his name, paid on his card. Last one was 6 weeks ago. I have no more information than that, but I felt you deserved to know before today. 4 times. 6 weeks ago. Not once. Not a misunderstanding. A pattern. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set the phone on the counter to read it twice. I still didn't go to Daniel first. I know how that sounds. But I've learned in 30 years of accounting that when you confront someone with half a story, they build a wall in 5 seconds flat, and you never get the other half. I called Chase, the best man, instead. Told him I needed to speak with him alone, no explanation, and could he meet me at the coffee shop 2 blocks from the venue in 20 minutes. He showed up looking confused, still in half his tux. I laid it out plainly. The message from Oswald, the photo from Priya, the added and removed name on the guest list. Chase went pale. Then he sat down hard in the chair across from me. I didn't know for sure, he said. I suspected. Ashley's been weird about her phone for months. Face down on tables. Password changed twice. I told myself it wasn't my business. Do you know who Marcus Whitfield is? Chase nodded slowly. Her ex. From before Daniel, they broke up, right around the time she started dating your son. I always figured that was a strange coincidence. The timing. I never said anything because I didn't want to be the guy who blew up my best friend's wedding on a hunch. Neither did I. But a hunch had just become 4 dinner reservations and a text from a man who had no reason to lie to me. 2 hours before the ceremony, I asked Chase to get Daniel alone, away from the getting ready suite, away from Ashley's bridesmaids, away from anyone who might tip her off, before I had the full picture. We met in the small courtyard behind the venue. Daniel in his shirt and vest, not yet in the jacket, hair still perfect from the barber that morning. "Mom, what's going on?" "We start in 2 hours. I didn't soften it. I've never believed in softening facts, only in delivering them with steady hands. I showed him the photo from the rehearsal dinner. I read him the text from Oswald, word for word. I told him what Chase had just told me about Marcus Whitfield. Daniel's face didn't do anything for almost 30 seconds. That's the part I remember most. No shouting, no tears yet. Just stillness, like his whole body was waiting for permission to react. Then he said, very quietly, 4 times. 4 times that we know of. He sat down on the stone bench in that courtyard, in his half-finished wedding suit, and put his head in his hands. "I found a napkin in her purse a month ago," he said. "Folded up, little note on it, just initials. A plus, M.I. Asked her about it. She said it was from a work thing. A team-building exercise, something about accountability partners. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. That napkin, a plus, M. Ashley plus Marcus. It had been sitting in her purse the whole time. And my son had held the truth in his own hands a month before his wedding day, and let someone talk him out of seeing it. Here's where I want to slow down, because this is the part people always ask me about in the comments on other channels, what actually happens in the moment. It's not like the movies. Nobody screamed. Nobody threw anything. Daniel asked me one question. What do I do? I told him what I would have wanted someone to tell me. You go find her. You ask her directly. You give her the exact chance to tell the truth before I show her what I have. And whatever she says, you listen with your eyes open, not your heart." He nodded, wiped his face with the heel of his hand, stood up straighter than I'd seen him stand all week. We walked back inside together. Ashley was in the bridal suite, already in her dress, getting her veil pinned by her mother Carol. 6 bridesmaids, in matching sage green. A photographer crouched in the corner catching candid shots, someone's phone playing music, low in the background. Daniel knocked once, and walked in without waiting for an answer. I stood behind him in the doorway. "Everyone needs to step out for a minute," he said. "Except Ashley." Kara frowned. "Danya, we have 40 minutes before now. Please." The room emptied slowly, bridesmaids exchanging glances, the photographer lowering her camera, Carol lingering in the doorway until I gently stepped aside to let her pass, though I noticed she didn't go far. She stood just outside, close enough to hear. Daniel closed the door. "Who is Marcus Whitfield?" he said. Not a question. A demand dressed as a question. Ashley's face went through 4 expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion first. Real or performed, I couldn't tell. Then something sharper. Then, finally, fear. "Where did you hear that name?" Answered the question. He was someone I dated before you." "It's nothing." "Why are you asking me this right now? Today you had dinner with him 4 times in the last year." The restaurant confirmed it. Reservations under his name, his card, last one 6 weeks ago. Daniel's voice cracked slightly on the number 6, the first sign of real emotion breaking through. 6 weeks ago? Ashley, we were picking out place settings 6 weeks ago. Her composure cracked completely then. Not tears at first, a kind of stunned, cornet stillness, the look of someone doing math in their head and realizing every number came out wrong. "It wasn't what you think," she said. "We were just talking." He reached out. "I didn't know how to tell you without you overreacting, without ruining everything we'd already put together." "The napkin," Daniel said. "A plus MU told me it was work." Silence. That silence told me everything the words hadn't. "I love you," she finally said, voice shaking. "I do." "This doesn't change that." "It changes everything," Daniel said. "I want you to know I didn't say a single word during that exchange. I stood by the door and let my son handle his own life, because that's what Robert would have told me to do, give him the facts, then get out of the way. But I heard something outside the door that told me this wasn't just about Ashley." Carol's voice, low, urgent, talking on her phone, in the hallway. "No, listen to me. If this falls apart today, we are not getting that deposit back. Do you understand me? We already spent." I opened the door. Carol, startled, nearly dropped her phone. "Spent what, Carol?" She didn't answer, but I already had a strong guess. Because 2 weeks earlier, I'd noticed something in my own bank statements that I'd chalked up to a processing error, a reimbursement request for $11,000 in coordinator fees that Ashley's family had submitted to the venue against a shared vendor account. Fees I never approved and never signed off on. I hadn't confronted it yet. I was planning to. After the wedding, quietly. The way I handle every financial discrepancy, carefully, with documentation, no accusations until the numbers were confirmed. Now, standing in that hallway, I understood. Ashley's family had been treating my $80,000 gift as a shared pool of money to skim from, and Carol had just confirmed it out loud, in a panic, without meaning to. The wedding did not happen that day. Daniel walked out to the courtyard where 200 guests sat waiting in white folding chairs, and he told them, in a voice steadier than I expected, that the ceremony was postponed. He didn't explain why. He didn't need to. People could read his face. Chase stood beside him the entire time, a silent, solid presence, the kind of friend you hope your child finds in this life. Carol left within the hour, dragging Ashley by the arm through a side exit while Ashley sobbed into her wedding dress, mascara running in 2 dark lines down her cheeks. I remember thinking, even in that moment, that I felt no satisfaction, only grief. For Daniel, for the version of this day he'd imagined for 2 years, the weeks after were not dramatic in the way movies make betrayal look. They were slow, quiet, full of paperwork. I filed a formal dispute with the venue over the unauthorized $11,000 reimbursement request, and Renata, to her credit, pulled the internal records without hesitation. The forms had Ashley's signature on them, not Daniel's, requesting funds be redirected to a personal account belonging to Carol. I hired a lawyer, not out of vengeance. Out of the same instinct that's guided my whole career. When the numbers don't add up, you find out why. The lawyer, a sharp young woman named Priscilla Hahn, confirmed within 3 weeks that the $11,000 wasn't an isolated incident. Ashley and Carol had done something similar at 2 prior events. A baby shower for a cousin, a 40th birthday party for a family friend, small coordinator fee skims routed through shared vendor accounts, each time under a different pretext, each time under the radar of anyone who wasn't specifically looking, the way I look, every day, for a living. Daniel filed a police report regarding the fraudulent reimbursement request, since it involved forged authorization on a shared account. Detective work moved slowly. It took 4 months before the district attorney's office decided there was enough for a fraud charge against Carol specifically, given her signature and the pattern of prior incidents. Ashley wasn't charged criminally. There wasn't enough evidence she'd directed the fraud herself, though the affair was never in question. But Charleston is a small enough town, and word travels. She lost her job at the marketing firm downtown 3 months later, not because of any of this directly, but because her manager, Eat Turn It Out, was married to the sister of one of the bridesmaids who'd been standing in that hallway. Small towns don't forgive quietly. They just stop inviting you places. Carol pled to a lesser charge in exchange for restitution. She paid back the $11,000 plus fees over an 18-month payment plan that a judge ordered into place. I never saw a cent of apology, only a check that cleared, month after month, like a debt with no feeling attached to it. The venue, the caterer, the florist, all of them refunded what they could of the unused deposits, since the wedding never took place. In the end, I recovered about $52,000 of the original $80,000. The rest, the dress, the band deposit, the invitations already printed, was gone. A cost of finding out the truth before it cost something far greater. Daniel moved back into his old apartment for a while. He didn't talk much that first month. I'd bring him dinner on Sunday nights, the way I used to when he was in college, and we'd sit at his small kitchen table mostly in silence, which was its own kind of conversation. One night, about 6 weeks after everything fell apart, he finally said, "I keep thinking about that napkin. If I'd just ask one more question instead of letting her explain it away." "You asked?" I told him. "That's what matters. Not everyone asks. Some people just look away because the truth is inconvenient." He nodded slowly. "How did you know?" "Really know? I mean, enough to actually do something." "I didn't know," I said. "Not for certain. I had a feeling, and then I had a photo, and then I had a text message from a stranger who didn't have to send it. One piece by itself is nothing. Put them together, and you get a picture nobody can deny." 2 years later, I'm sitting on my back porch in Charleston, late September. The same time of year the wedding was supposed to happen, though nobody in my family marks that anniversary out loud anymore. We just quietly let the day pass. Daniel is married now, note to us, to a woman named Priya. Yes, the same Priya, the hostess from Magnolia and Vine, who showed me that first photograph in the hallway. They ran into each other 8 months after the wedding that never happened, at a farmer's market of all places, and Daniel told me later he recognized her immediately. And something in him just knew. Their wedding was small. 40 guests, a backyard, Robert's old smoker running all afternoon exactly the way it did on that birthday 2 years before everything happened. No $80,000 venue. No open bar. Just people who loved them, plates of barbecue, and string lights strung between 2 oak trees. At the reception, Priya handed me something wrapped in a small cloth napkin. Inside was was a folded piece of paper. On it, in her handwriting, 2 initials, the plus M, Daniel plus Margaret. Mother and son. She told me she wanted to give the symbol back its meaning. Since the last time a folded note with initials passed through that family, it meant something broken. This one, she said, was for something that never broke the bond between my son and me. The one that held steady through the worst 6 weeks of our lives. I still have that napkin. It's in the top drawer of my desk, next to Robert's reading glasses, which I also never got rid of. Here's what I've learned, and I'll say it plainly because that's the only way I know how to say anything. Love without honesty is just a well-decorated lie, and the people who truly love you will never be afraid of a few honest questions. So let me ask you the same thing I ask myself some nights. If you'd found that photo in that hallway, would you have said something? Would you have waited, the way I did? Or would you have acted right then? Intim moment. Tell me where you're watching from tonight. And tell me honestly, what would you have done in my shoes? If this story meant something to you, subscribe to The Quiet Rise. There are more stories like this one waiting for you, and I'll see you in the next one.